The bass thundered through Eclipse, Seoul's most exclusive club, but Drusilla's hands were shaking for an entirely different reason. Through the DJ booth's tinted glass, she watched Kong Johan, the man everyone called the Velvet King, press a gun against a man's temple in the VIP section. His Tom Ford suit didn't have a single wrinkle. His salt and pepper hair was slicked back perfectly. At 65, he looked like he'd stepped out of a Milan runway show, all sharp edges and controlled violence. "Keep playing." His head of security had hissed at her through her headphones 30 seconds ago. "Don't stop. Don't look. Just keep playing." So Drusilla dropped the beat harder, her green mini dress catching the strobe lights as she moved, her box braids swinging with each movement. The crowd went wild completely, oblivious to the execution about to happen 15 feet above them. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was her third month in Korea, and she'd heard the rumors about Johan, that he owned half of Gangnam, that he made people disappear, that he'd built his empire on blood and billions. But she needed this job. The contract paid more in 1 month than she'd made in a year back in Johannesburg. Her family's new house in Santon. Her sister's university fees at WITS, the charity she'd started for township kids in Soweto. Everything depended on her keeping this gig. The man in the VIP section was crying now. Johan leaned in, whispered something that made the man's face go white, then smiled, and that smile was more terrifying than the gun. He lowered the weapon, patted the man's cheek almost affectionately, and walked away. The man collapsed against the velvet couch, sobbing with relief. Johan's eyes swept across the club with the precision of a predator surveying his territory, and for one electrifying second, they locked with Drusilla's. Even from that distance, even through the glass and smoke and laser lights, she felt it, a jolt of recognition that made her miss a beat transition for the first time in 5 years. He tilted his head slightly, studying her like she was a puzzle he couldn't solve, a new variable in his perfectly controlled equation. Then someone pulled him away, and the moment shattered. But Drusilla knew, with a certainty that settled in her bones like ice, that everything was about to change. 3 hours earlier, she'd been a DJ living her dream. Now she was a witness to something that could get her killed. And the man who could order her death hadn't stopped staring at her all night. 3 months earlier, Johannesburg. Drusilla stood in her family's garden in Bryanston, the January sun warm on her brown skin, her phone pressed to her ear. "Mama, I'm telling you, this is the opportunity of a lifetime." Her mother, Grace Kumalo, stood by the bray, turning borwers with practiced efficiency. "Korea, Drusilla? You want to go all the way to Korea to play music? What's wrong with the clubs here? Taboo? Kong, the living room. They all want you." "It's not the same, Mama." Drusilla's eyes sparkled with excitement. "Eclipse is the biggest club in Seoul. The contract is for 6 months, and they're paying me more than I'd make in 2 years here. Real money, Mama. Enough to finish the house renovations, pay for Thandai's final year at university, and expand the foundation." Her younger sister Thandai looked up from her phone, grinning. "Plus, bestie, the Korean fashion scene? You're going to come back with the sickest fits." Drusilla laughed, striking a pose in her vintage Adidas tracksuit and gold hoops. At 25, she'd built a reputation as one of South Africa's hottest DJs. Not just because of her technical skills, but because she knew how to read a room, to make people forget their problems and just feel. Her signature look, a mix of streetwear, high fashion, and Afrocentric pieces, had made her an influencer in her own right. "And you can visit the Korean spas," Thandai continued. Thandai continued dreamily, "and eat all that street food, and be alone in a country where you don't speak the language, where you don't know anyone, where anything could happen to you." Grace interrupted, her voice tight with worry. Drusilla walked over and wrapped her arms around her mother. "Mama, I'm not a baby anymore. I've traveled to Ibiza, Amsterdam, Lagos. I know how to take care of myself. And besides, the club is providing security, accommodation, everything. I'll be fine. What she didn't mention was the restlessness that had been growing in her chest. The feeling that Johannesburg, as much as she loved it, was becoming too small for her dreams. She wanted to see the world, to push herself, to prove that a girl from Soweto could conquer international stages. Her father, Marcus, came out carrying a tray of drinks. "Let her go, Grace. Our daughter has fire in her. You can't cage fire. You can only watch it burn brighter." Grace sighed, knowing she was outnumbered. "Fine, but you call me every day. Every single day, Drusilla Kumalo." "I promise, Mama." 2 weeks later, Drusilla was on a plane to Seoul, her heart full of dreams and her suitcase packed with enough outfits to make every night at Eclipse unforgettable. Present-day Eclipse Club, Seoul. The night after the gun incident, Drusilla arrived at Eclipse 2 hours early, as usual. She liked to set up her equipment herself, to feel the space before the crowd arrived. The club was eerily quiet in the daytime, all shadows and potential. "Miss Kumalo." The voice made her jump. She spun around to find Kang Johan standing at the entrance to the DJ booth. And up close, he was even more intimidating. He wore a charcoal 3-piece suit with subtle purple pinstripes, Brioni, if she wasn't mistaken, and a black shirt with no tie. Diamond cufflinks caught the dim light. His face was all sharp angles and knowing eyes, the kind of face that had seen everything and been impressed by nothing. "Mr. Kong," she said carefully, keeping her voice steady. "I didn't expect to see you here this early. I own this place. I can be here whenever I want." His Korean was slow, deliberate, but he switched smoothly to English. "We need to talk about last night." Drusilla's mouth went dry. "I didn't see anything. Don't lie to me." He stepped closer, and she caught his scent. Expensive cologne mixed with cigarette smoke and something else. Something dangerous. "You saw everything. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze directly. Back home, her father had taught her never to show fear, especially to predators. "I'm going to do my job, Mr. Kong. I'm going to make this club the hottest spot in Seoul. What you do in your private business is exactly that, private. I'm not interested." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise? Amusement? "You're not afraid of me." "I didn't say that. I said I'm not interested in your business. There's a difference." He studied her for a long moment, and Drusilla forced herself not to fidget under his scrutiny. Finally, he reached into his jacket pocket, and her heart stopped. But he pulled out an envelope, not a gun. "Your contract is being renegotiated. Triple your current rate, plus bonuses based on performance. Non-negotiable." Drusilla blinked. What? Why?" "Because since you started, Eclipse has become the most sought-after venue in Seoul. Tickets sell out in minutes. People are flying in from Tokyo, Hong Kong, Shanghai just to hear you play. You're making me a lot of money, Miss Kumalo. I believe in rewarding value." She took the envelope with trembling fingers. Triple her rate? That was insane money. Life-changing money. "There's one condition," Johan continued, his voice dropping lower. "You work exclusively for Eclipse. No other clubs. No private events. You belong to me, professionally speaking, of course." The way he said "belong" sent a shiver down her spine that she absolutely refused to analyze. "That's a big ask, Mr. Kong. It's a big paycheck, Miss Kumalo." He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "And Drusilla? That's your name, isn't it? It's beautiful. Unusual. It means strong in Latin," she said before she could stop herself. "How fitting." His smile was different this time. Not dangerous, but something else she couldn't quite name. "I'll see you tonight. We're something stunning. We have VIPs from Tokyo attending, and I want them to see why Eclipse is untouchable." After he left, Drusilla sank onto her equipment case, her legs suddenly weak. She opened the envelope and nearly dropped it when she saw the figures. This was enough to not just help her family but to set them up for years. to expand her foundation to help hundreds more kids, to secure her future. But something in Kang Johan's eyes when he looked at her had nothing to do with business, and that terrified her more than the gun from the night before. Drusilla chose a black leather miniskirt with a matching crop top that showed just enough skin to be daring without being unprofessional. She paired it with thigh-high boots and gold jewelry, her lucky Johannesburg gold. Her makeup was flawless, her box braids styled in an intricate updo. If Johan wanted stunning, she'd give him breathtaking. The Tokyo Vips were exactly what she expected. Wealthy businessmen with beautiful escorts, all designer clothes and fake smiles. But they came alive when she started her set, and Drusilla did what she did best. She made them forget everything except the music. 2 hours into her set, she noticed Johan in his usual VIP section, but tonight he was alone. No models, no entourage, just him watching her with that unsettling intensity. Every time she glanced his way, his eyes were on her, and it was starting to affect her concentration. During her break, one of the waitresses brought her a drink. From Mr. Kang. He says you must be thirsty. Drusilla looked at the glass suspiciously. I don't drink while I'm working. It's just water. With lemon. He was very specific. That was surprisingly thoughtful. And also unsettling in its own way. Drusilla took a careful sip. Just water as promised. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. You're wasting your talent on drunk businessmen. Come to the VIP section after your set. We need to discuss your future. She didn't need to ask who it was from. Drusilla typed back. I'm not interested in private meetings with my employer outside of official business hours. The response was immediate. Everything I do is business. And I'm not asking. Well, that was direct. And arrogant. And exactly what she'd expect from a mafia boss who thought he owned the world. She ignored the message and went back to her set, pouring all her frustration into the music. The crowd went absolutely wild, and by the time she finished at 3 a.m., she was exhausted but exhilarated. This was why she did it. For that pure connection, that moment when music made everyone equal. But when she packed up her equipment, she found Johan waiting outside the DJ booth. I thought I was clear about the meeting, he said. And I thought I was clear about not being interested. Drusilla hoisted her bag onto her shoulder. Good night, Mr. Kang. She tried to walk past him, but he moved into her path. Not touching her, not threatening, just there. You're different from the others. The others. The women who work here. The models. The actresses. They all want something from me: money, connections, protection. You look at me like I'm an inconvenience. Drusilla couldn't help it. She laughed. With all due respect, Mr. Kang, you kind of are. I came to Seoul to build my career, not to get involved in whatever this is. She gestured between them. And what is this? I don't know, and I don't want to find out. You're my employer. That's it. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to be back here in 12 hours. This time he let her pass, but she felt his eyes on her back all the way to the exit. The next 3 weeks followed a strange pattern. Johan was everywhere and nowhere. He never approached her during work hours, never sent inappropriate messages, never crossed any professional lines. But the gifts started arriving. First, it was flowers, not roses, but proteas, South Africa's national flower. Drusilla nearly cried when she saw them. How did he even know? Then, a pair of limited edition Beats headphones in gold, with a note, for the artist who deserves the best tools. Then, a donation to her foundation in Soweto, a sum so large that her partner called her, crying, to tell her they could now sponsor 50 more children. Who is this Kang Johan? Her friend Saifo demanded over video call. Drusilla, this is serious money. What does he want? I don't know, she admitted, staring at the donation receipt. I honestly don't know. But she was starting to suspect, and it scared her. The breaking point came on a Friday night. Drusilla was at Eclipse, setting up for her regular set, when she noticed a man in the crowd staring at her. Not unusual, people always watched the DJ. But this felt different. Predatory. Halfway through her first set, the man started pushing his way toward the DJ booth. Security moved to intercept him, but he pulled out a knife. The music stopped. The crowd screamed. And then Kang Johan was there, moving with a speed that shouldn't have been possible for a man his age. He grabbed the man's wrist, twisted it with surgical precision, and the knife clattered to the floor. 3 more men appeared from nowhere, dragging the attacker away. The whole thing took maybe 15 seconds. Johan turned to Drusilla, his expression unreadable. "Are you hurt?" She shook her head, mute with shock. "Good. Keep playing. Show them this changes nothing." But her hands were shaking too hard. Johan saw, and for the first time, his controlled facade cracked slightly. He climbed into the DJ booth, scandalizing his security team, and took her hands in his. His hands were warm, calloused, surprisingly gentle. "Breathe, Drusilla. Just breathe. You're safe." Who was that? Someone who made a very poor decision. "He won't trouble you again." The way he said it made clear exactly what that meant. "Why did he come after me?" Johan's jaw tightened. "Because you work for me. And in my world, that makes you a target." He released her hands, stepping back. "I've been selfish. I increased your visibility without increasing your protection. That ends tonight. I don't need protection. I need to go home." "No." Drusilla's eyes flashed. "Excuse me? You don't get to tell me. Tonight, you're not safe in your apartment. Someone knew where you'd be. They might know where you live." He pulled out his phone, typed something quickly. "You'll stay at my penthouse. It's the most secure building in Seoul. Tomorrow, we'll arrange better security for your regular place." "I'm not staying at your penthouse." "Then where?" "A hotel that anyone can access. Another club where you're exposed." He stepped closer, and his voice dropped to something raw, almost vulnerable. "Drusilla, someone tried to hurt you tonight. In my club. Under my watch. That doesn't happen. That can't happen. So please, just for tonight, let me keep you safe." It was the please that did it. Kang Johan, the Velvet King, didn't strike her as a man who said please very often. "Just tonight," she agreed. "And I'm sleeping in a locked room. Alone." Something that might have been amusement flickered across his face. "I have 7 bedrooms. Take your pick." Johan's penthouse was stunning. All floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the glittering Seoul skyline. Minimalist furniture that probably cost more than her parents' house. And art that belonged in museums. It was beautiful but cold. Like a display rather than a home. "Guest rooms are down that hallway," Johan said, shrugging off his jacket to reveal the shoulder holster he wore underneath. He saw her looking and added, "Occupational hazard, right? Because you're totally just a nightclub owner. I own many businesses, some more legitimate than others." He poured himself a drink, whiskey, neat. "Hungry? My chef can prepare something." "You have a chef?" "I have a lot of things, Drusilla. Most of them designed to keep people at a distance." He took a sip, studying her over the rim of his glass. "You do that naturally. Keep people at a distance. Why?" She settled onto the couch, suddenly exhausted. "Maybe because I've learned that people who get too close usually want something. And you think I want something, don't you?" "Yes." His honesty surprised her. "But probably not what you think." "Then what?" He set down his glass and moved to the window, his back to her. Against the Seoul skyline, he looked lonely. A king in a tower, surrounded by everything and connected to nothing. "I'm old, Drusilla. I've built an empire. I have more money than I could spend in 3 lifetimes. I can make people disappear with a phone call or make them rich with a signature. But do you know what I don't have?" She waited, something in her chest tightening. "Someone who looks at me and sees just a man. Not power, not money, not fear. Just me." He turned back to her, and in the dim light, he looked his age for the first time, worn, tired, human. And then you walked into my club with your music and your light and your complete disinterest in impressing me. And I thought, maybe what? Maybe I'm not as dead inside as I thought I was. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in Drusilla. She stood up, walked over to him, and did something completely insane. She took his hand. Mr. Kong. Johann. My name is Johann. Johann, she corrected softly. I'm not interested in being anyone's maybe. I'm not interested in being a project or a redemption arc or whatever this is. I came to Seoul to chase my dreams, not to fall into someone else's. I know. He looked down at their joined hands. But would it be so terrible if our dreams ran parallel for a while? If we just saw where this goes? You're 40 years older than me. You're a criminal. My mother would have a heart attack. This is a terrible idea. All true. He smiled then, and it transformed his face completely. Made him look younger, lighter, almost boyish. But you haven't let go of my hand. She looked down and realized he was right. This doesn't mean anything. Of course not. I'm still sleeping in a locked room. Naturally. And tomorrow, I'm going back to my apartment with better security, and we're going back to our professional relationship. Whatever you say. But they both knew she was lying. They both felt it. That dangerous, intoxicating pull that had nothing to do with logic and everything to do with the way he looked at her like she was the only real thing. In his synthetic world. One question, Drusilla said. The proteas. How did you know? His smile widened. I research everything that matters to me. And you, Drusilla Kumalo from Soweto, Johannesburg, DJ extraordinaire and secret philanthropist with a weakness for street food and vintage sneakers. You matter. Against all logic, all reason, all common sense, Drusilla felt herself smile back. You're trouble. The worst kind, Johann agreed. But something tells me you don't scare easy. No, she admitted. I don't. And that's how it began. Not with a grand gesture or a dramatic kiss, but with two people standing in a penthouse overlooking Seoul, holding hands and acknowledging the inevitable. That sometimes, the worst ideas feel the most right.
Hello besties, the story is only getting started. Thank you so much for watching. Can you like, subscribe and share?